another digit. We want to put a comma in that number if we're putting it down on a spreadsheet.
That would be quite a lot of money. Start my own pro league.
That's the idea. I actually still have plans to. I really want to run a tournament at some point, and obviously be the main commentator for it. But I want to run my own tournament once I can figure out like somewhere where I can, because, or rather, a time when I can, because it seems like, especially with the season isn't over yet, because we're used to having this StarCraft season over at this point, but it's actually like we got till March. March is still, it's still going to be the 2020 season until then.
Yep.
We got the last chance qualifiers happening. There's TSL and stuff like that, and then obviously there's the Wardy shows, the Lima leagues. I need to find a time to run a tournament. I also want to have a bunch of great European players in it, which means that I might have to get up really early for it. Orc. But to run a tournament, I also need capital, which is why I was like, oh, if I get a certain sub count, I'll run one, because then I can just front my own money for prize pool, because I don't know how to approach sponsors and say, please give me money for a StarCraft tournament. I know the game's 10 years old and everyone's playing Cyberpunk and tweeting about how broken it is, and that's really fun to see nothing but, this game's buggy. I'm like, yeah. This game's buggy. Yeah. Look at this bug. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Game's buggy. All right. And it's hard to cut through all of that and find a sponsor to give me prize pool for a 10-year-old video game. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, good talk. So, what's your PvP plan? Are you one of those Immortal Charge like Archon betas, or are you an Omega Giga Chad Blink Disruptor player?
I'm a Mega Giga Chad.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Totes. It's gonna be so great.
Do you guys review/cast a game differently for someone you know well? Asks Manix86. I would say so. I usually, if I'm like sometimes for the ESL Pro Tour, like weeklies and stuff, whenever I had a Rotterdam game or a Pig game, I would, 80% of the time that cast be casting it like I normally would cast anyone's game, trying to be professional, trying to be non-biased. But I will get excited if something goes well for a friend of mine. And also laugh a little bit, or rather, get some empathy and feel their pain a little bit, because they're a friend of mine. It's the same with like the pro gamers that I feel like I'm closer with versus the ones I'm not as close with. I always like seeing you Thermal do well, because I like the guy a lot. He's always had time for me at events. Yeah, I always am a little bit sad when he loses. So in that sense, I might be a little bit down at the end of the GG for a youth thermal game, stuff like that.
Fuck off. I
definitely don't tell him to fuck off. Oh
just
no!
Shy
didn't find 100 minerals.
Of 100 minerals. What bullshit.
So playing Protoss is really fun until this happens. Then, not so much. Just say pretty please, give me money now, please. Oh, I say that to sponsors, you mean, Kadilin? I should just hit up sponsors and just be like, go hit up Corsair and be like, hi, give me money, please. 10-year-old video game. I run a tournament.
Usually you include stats.
Oh. Oh no. I always feel funny when I've had a couple of sponsorships on my channel, and they're like, oh, can you give us the stats, please, to send to the sponsor? I'm like, no, I don't want to.
I always thought my stats were surprisingly okay in what I thought they were.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're not that bad, because I've had more than one sponsorship deal, and they're not for cheap things. Like the laptop I got was like a, top of the line laptop at that point. However many years ago I got it. Actually last year. Wow, a year and a bit ago. It's hard to, when you're on Twitch, it's hard to not sometimes even subconsciously compare yourself to the big dogs.
True that.
When playing Bio, is there a point when you get a second armory? I would say no. or Landy. I think if you're on top of your armory upgrades, you're usually good to go. It also depends on the matchup. You know, if you're playing Bio against Terran, you usually only really care about your tank upgrades. So you're only really getting attack, so you only really need one armory. If you're up against Zerg, I guess same deal. Or even with the, you may not even use the armory at all against Zerg. You might just be getting 2-2 for your Bio and using it to get up your higher Bio upgrades. And against Protoss, you can get ship weapons, but even then, it's like, if you're going tanks, or if you're going for ship weapons, attack matters way more than armor. So, yeah. Also, it's not just the second armory that you're buying. Keep in mind that you're also buying 2 upgrades at once, which is a very expensive thing to do. Need a lot of gas. And a lot of minerals. So, yeah. I would say that you could probably just forget the second armory in most matchups if you're playing Bio. Someone in chat's saying that for some reason they were under the impression that we were married, ZombieGrub.
Okay, that doesn't make much sense.
I'm not sure what I've done to...
I feel like if you really thought that one through, you would realize you're being a bit silly.
That's right. Yeah, we're long time married, but she's only been over my house once for 3 days. what a magical 3 days we spent together, going to wildlife parks and the city and to the bakery once for a pie.
Yeah, pies are great.
Pies are great. You guys are both married to the same partner, though. The game, that is true. People used to ask me, "Are you married?" And I'd be like, "Yes, StarCraft and I have been married for many years." We have rough periods, StarCraft and me. Also, you know, StarCraft has many partners. But, you know, we always... We know deep down that, you know, even in the rough times, we'll fight a little bit. You know what I mean? In StarCraft, we'll fight a little bit. We'll have disagreements, but deep down, the love is there. Yeah. StarCraft is indeed polyamorous. Ugh. What's the likelihood that these 4 stalkers survive?
They do have blink.
Yeah, so I was thinking. He really wants them to die. He or she really wants them to die. Oh, if only you had high ground vision. It might be out of blink range. See it. Oh, they're out of there. Nice. Does Red Protoss not have blink? Oh, good catch.
Not yet. I assume they're getting it.
Probably going straight to charge, maybe.
Warp your forces in somewhere else.
Pretty cool. After 10 years, there's still a SC2 scene and a following even smaller than the newer games. Mate, there are actually a fair few newer games that have much smaller of a following than StarCraft 2. Like, for instance, Doom Eternal is a game that came out literally this year, and it has less viewers than StarCraft 2. It's very much a, you know, kind of a one and done game. You play the single player game, and most people are done. Same deal with StarCraft, to be honest, but there's it's such a good esport and such a good multiplayer game that it has a lot of longevity. It's also just a very natural esport. I think it's like it's competitive by nature, history, prestige. Very healthy player base. There's a lot of modern games that have less players than StarCraft 2. That's what I'm trying to say. Even today. Like, remember the like Riot made that card game, Legends of Runeterra or something like that?
Yeah.
And there was the Valve card game, Artifact, DOA. And while obviously Cyberpunk's got a ton of viewers right now, that game strikes me as the exact kind of game that disappears very quickly, because it is a very much like an adventure single player thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be like The Witcher, if it's good.
Similar to Witcher, yeah. Yep. Which is, I mean, I was looking at it the other day, actually, because wife and I were just sort of like watching, you know, we're like, oh, what's the viewer of certain games? We're just talking about like things that you stream and, you know, what's the viewership of StarCraft versus other esports is just as a conversation. And like we looked at The Witcher because that's a game that she's been playing a little bit lately, and it's like 100 viewers for every stream combined. All right, we're playing the third whack-a-mole game.
Oh.
Oh. SE2 is kind of responsible for Twitch itself. Yes. I mean, another game may have done it, but at the time, SE2 certainly launched Twitch into what it was. Twitch has SE2 to thank for a lot of success. And a lot of the OGs at Twitch know that as well, which is why the game gets a lot of love and has gotten a lot of love from some of the Twitch OGs. Because they remember. It's those damned kids that don't know. Oh, the Invisible Man winning the game here for ZG.
Right?
Invisible Man hacking and slashing, ripping and tearing at that army. Getting it. If the OGs at Twitch know it, then why is it named after an FPS term, Twitch? I like Twitch aiming. I actually call that flick aim. That's what I call it. I don't know what they call it, Twitch. I don't know. But there wasn't really another esport that was big on live streaming when StarCraft came out. And CS:GO came out in like 2012. Dota also 2012. Dota 2 rather. Can't think of another.
Thank you, DTs. Much appreciated.
Thank you, DTs. Gotta love the Invisible Man, especially when it's your Invisible Man. You know things are going well when you have to probe drill stalkers in your main.
It's like the third observer I've killed.
Mind Distorter asks, what do you think gave SE2 such long-term pro scene longevity over other RTSs? I think it's just very polished. As the backing of a massive company. It's very polished, very clean. And honestly, like a lot of people will argue otherwise, but very well balanced. It's very hard to make asynchronous races interact with each other well. And I think they've done it fair.